Okay, so I guess this is my second video. The first video was actually a really good opener for me, which is a subject that I love to talk about it, and I love to share my point of view about it, which is producing music, and more so the creativity process behind it, which is something that we don't discuss enough. I find that it's something that has been sort of underlooked, and it's something that a lot of people don't consider too seriously. I just, by these videos that I'm going to make, I would like to have one target in mind, which is to bring you closer to the state of mind in which you're feeling your creative freedom, your creative fullness. And to do so, well, there's a long road ahead, but it can actually happen pretty fast. And the goal of the videos is really to sort of debunk the process on feeling and tasting this creative fullness, like I kind of designed it. So I'm gonna sort of share a few tips that I've calculated with time. I also discovered through readings that there's a lot of literature that is really fantastic, and I would like to share a sort of like a summary of the best things that I go back to all the time in the moments where I have crisis or moments where I'm not feeling too efficient. After the first video, a lot of people have been asking me to sort of talk about where to start, how to start, what is the first thing that we should look into, what do I need to start producing music. And I find that it's totally relevant to start with that because technically I find that there's everything on YouTube. I've just made a search about different subjects and everyone is covering basically everything possible and impossible that I can think of. And on creative level, they sometimes do a job that I find is really, really good, and I don't see the point of making something else on the same subject. So I would like to go on something more personal and more on the human side of things. And this is pretty much how I've always seen production of music, which is something that should be and remaining extremely human before the technical aspect kicks in. So, what do you need to start with? What is the perfect setup? What is the key of making a great sounding song? First off, we need to define a few things. Um, I could tell you to get this software, that software, this sound card, this board, that controller. You should buy these sounds. Listen, if we start doing that, we'll get nowhere. I've known this guy that started making music. We started making music pretty much at the same time, and I swear to God, something new would come out, he would buy it, and then he would resell it like a few months after finding out that it wasn't what he was expecting it to be. And I mean, the first 5 years that we kind of grew together and we were just exchanging tips, and he was really, I mean, he was my resource because he would buy everything and then tell me if it was worth buying it or not. So by the time that he bought so many things and resold everything, I had made like I think 2, 3 albums and a bunch of releases. He was not even able to finish one song. It was not a competition about who's going to be more efficient, but my point here is the more you expect to make great things with a sophisticated setup, the least are the chances that you're actually going to finish something. So there's no starting point besides where you are right now. If you have Ableton, you're fine. You don't need something else. Just Ableton will just do the job. Some people preferred Reason. Reason is great. A lot of people think, oh, it's like a toy. Well, you know what? Reason might look like a toy to you, but if you know what you're doing, it sounds really good. The reason is I'm doing stuff in Reason that a lot of people ask me what is the hardware that I'm using. And when I tell them I'm using Reason, they're like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing with sound, so you just need to know what you're doing. Same thing for FL Studio. Great software. A lot of people think it's a toy. No, it's not. It's really, really nice. You can use Studio One, which is made by PreSonus, which is fantastic as well. Logic is great. Pro Tools. I'm not a fan of Pro Tools, to be honest, and the reason is I find it frustrating to use. I don't find it intuitive. Yes, it sounds great and has a pristine sound, but I made some tests with my students when I used to teach and blindfolded tests, and I swear to God, everyone preferred the sound of Studio One 2 than Pro Tools. Ah, ha, ha. So that's just a test that I did. Many people will say the opposite, but whatever. So So my point is, if you don't have a digital audio workstation, which we call a DAW, you can also buy some apps on your phone, your intelligent phone, or the iPad or something equivalent. I know some producers that do amazing music with their iPad. You would never guess that they actually did it with that. Then again, you just need to be careful with certain rules that we can talk about later in some other videos. But my point is, don't let external feedback from people telling you or trying to discourage you that you should actually get a better sound card to have better results or better headphones. Of course, it's going to be better, but just learn to master what you have right now, and that will be a really great start. So start with the minimum. That would be the first. Second, build references. What are your references? Because sometimes people send me a track and they say, can you give me feedback? Well, I don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, I listen to the track, I'm like, okay, it's great. But then they will say, well, I feel something's missing. It's missing compared to what? What are you comparing it to? So you should have this folder of references there. In there, you should have as many tracks as you want. It can be the first few tracks that you remember making you feeling in love with the idea of making music. I clearly remember the first time that I listened to a few tracks and I was like, wow, okay, I want to do music. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to do music. I feel like I want to explore that. It seems fascinating. So these tracks are super important. Those are called your roots. Put your roots in this folder. Also, when you listen to music at home and you find, wow, this one has a really nice bass line, take that track, put it in your reference. Um, Maybe some track has an amazing synth or vocals or hi-hats or whatever, or just the way that the track is just built. Try to find these tracks that you feel are just the cutting edge of everything else you have in your library of sound. It can be from a record. Just rip the track, put it in your reference tracks. It doesn't need to be a super good quality, but it helps if you can do that. These references will define who you are as a musician, and they will also help you on the long run to whenever you get lost, you can always go back to that, and then you get some hints of what is the thing that resonates in you. The reason why I really encourage you to do that is at some point, at some time, you'll do music, it'll go really great, but you won't see that coming, but there will be a time where you hate making music and you will feel like it's painful and doesn't work and you don't understand why you're doing it. And then it's good to have your references. You go back to that and you listen, and then things will unfold again. So um, when you build your references, it could be really useful that you start thinking, what do I need to master to get that groove, or what do I need to master to make those kicks or those synths or stuff like that. The need to recreate what was really inspiring in your reference is not really important. I value a lot the road to the destination more than the destination itself. The destination is often more disappointing to you, but it doesn't mean that the destination will be disappointing for someone else. And never discard anything, and that should be like a rule that you can apply as soon as possible, which is never discard a project that you worked on for multiple hours. Uh, Save it, don't work on it for a little while, go back to it. There must be something interesting in it, and sometimes it's not what you think it is. So never discard anything, never trash anything. I trash so many stuff that I regret trashing. So don't do that. It's kind of silly. One of the first thing that you can look into as well in terms of what you can start developing is sound design. Sound design is something that will be, it'll take like a lifelong time to master and understand, and you will always feel that you don't know much. And when you feel like you actually know a lot, something will happen that will make you realize that you don't know anything yet. And I feel like that each time I watch a new video, read a new book, there's always something new to learn. Sound design is also the pool of inspiration where you can always go back to and dig a few sounds, and then you put them together with some other new or old sounds that you did, and you'll get a broad new palette of different things that you could do with. It's fascinating. So sound design, the more you practice it, the more you go through it, and the more it will pay off in the future. So with this video, one thing I would like you to encourage you with is um, let's start small. Let's start with one thing to practice, and that thing will be sound design and recording sounds. So I read a lot about a different kind of approach to achieving a project, and one of my favorite approach that I've been practicing for years is called KAIZEN by it's a Japanese art of small and continuous improvement. So what is Kaizen? It's kind of understanding what you want to achieve and then slice this goal into little tasks. And each task should be so small that it's impossible to fail. So let's say your goal is to write a book, then the task should be something like write one sentence a day. I mean, one sentence a day. We write email. It's like really hard not to do that. So same thing. If sound design is your first goal, one of the first thing you can do is listen to sound. You can take in your reference, you can slice a sound out of your references and just listen to it and see how it's made. How do we know how something is made? Well, you can use something like a spectrogram to see what the frequencies are. If you're not familiar with frequencies, I highly suggest that you Google about frequencies and see what are they and how they can be used. This is a really good starter. And so we'll start with this. Take your phone. Uh, I suppose that you have a smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, get a microphone and get something that is with your budget. People will say, "Oh, you can't do something interesting with a cheap microphone," which is not true. A cheap microphone has character. It has like sometimes it will be like a shitty filter on it. But the great thing is that whatever you record with it will have some kind of color, which is really, really cool. Sometimes people will ask you, how did you make that sound? Well, it's just a cheap microphone, and it sounds like that. It sounds muffled, or it sounds like a toy. James Holden made an album using kind of toy, like a Casio and other kind of gimmicks. So never underestimate little things, little cheap stuff. You can be really creative with that. So record sounds and try to record one sound a day. Just that. So you wake up in the morning, you turn on your phone, get a free application to record, or there's some that come with your phone, and then look around, take an object, hit, or if you don't have an object, clap with your hands or anything. Just record and build these sounds in your phone And that would be your first Kaizen um, sort of homework for the week. So let's say that in a week we'll talk. You should have a bunch of sounds, and I'll do the same. I'll do the same this week. I will record one sound a day, and next week we'll see the next thing, the next step to that, and we'll play with these sounds, and we'll also try to start with something again really simple. So one of the reasons that I want to make you practice recording is that you might encounter some problems. We'll see what the problems are and how to move with that later on. And a great quote by Bruce Lee, which is, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." So if you really practice something, you can get really, really good at it. And when you get really good at something, and then you can do really great things, but you will also get into that state of consciousness that we call the flow. The flow is one thing that you will hear me talk a lot about. It's an amazing state of mind in which you really awaken this creativity that sleeps inside of you. I'll give you literature to read about this. There's some really a great book that you can read, but the Wikipedia that talks about the book is kind of more interesting because it's really straight to the point, and it explains the difference between flow and relaxation and how you can achieve both. But to get to the flow, you need to develop your skills, and to develop your skills, you need to do something multiple times. So we'll start with that. That's already enough for today. So I hope this was instructive, and in the meantime, you can follow me on Facebook on my page. I hate saying that, but whatever. You can follow me, and hopefully we'll get more videos next week. Have a great weekend.